Now be live. Hello everybody. Welcome to Builder Buy today. We usually meet on Wednesdays, 1 to 3. For those of you that showed up, I appreciate it. And I want to be sure everybody that's here today, remember next week is our last meeting that we're going to have for the summer, because I got a fence I got to go build. June, maybe part of July. So next week is the last meeting. And I need everyone here that's at the meeting present today. I want to thank those of you that are online for joining us. Please be sure and sign up, because I'm going to give everybody a disc today for that program I tried to show you guys 2 weeks ago, that Unified EFI Reset the Password. But the first thing I want to get into is I'm going to have myself a seat and talk to you a little bit about the new Windows 10 1803. How many have it? Okay, Windows 10 1803 has done it again. They've reset the network. I've shown y'all how to go through and do that. And the real key to that is once you've done those 3 key places, the next thing is to make sure SMB is installed, because if you're trying to browse the network and SMB version 1 is not there, it ain't going to happen. Now on this computer, I'm going to go and take a look at the version that's here. I know this is 1709, but I'm going to go to System. I'm going to go to About. And a lot of these things are related. This is build 1709, so I'm going to go to this other computer right next to me that has 1803 on it, and there's a couple of things they've changed that I don't like. So we're going to go to System, we're going to go to the About, and this is 1803. Now I'm going to bring up the Windows flag E, and I'm going to take a look at the network. This laptop is going to see everything that's on the network. Okay, now I'm going to go to another computer, and that will be computer number 3. And it's going to show a whole lot less. But the reason I'm going to show it to you is because this computer, when I bring this Windows flag E key up and go to network, it's only going to show us a couple of computers, maybe 3. The reason for that, this computer number 3, yes. Oh, thank you. Got to go back over here to do that. Okay, the reason for this, thanks Greg, is this does not have SMB1 version installed. Now I'm going to show you on both computers there's a difference, because there's a third thing in there for SMB that says I'll automatically remove it, and that's there by default. But I've seen on another computer where that setting that says it's going to automatically remove it is not there. So next thing I'm going to do is I'll go into Control Panel.
Excuse me, would you explain what SMD is for me, please?
Well, let me go back over here to computer number 2. Windows 10 SMB1. Okay, SMB1 is not installed by default. If this will come up, there it is. SMB1 is not installed by default on Windows 10 1709. Okay, as we talked about this before, Microsoft, SMB is the server message block. And the server message block is what allows you to browse the network. SMB version 1 has been deprecated. Now, if you don't have this installed and you're trying to look at the resources on your network, you're not going to see the resources unless this is installed. Otherwise, you have to know the name of the computer and the path where you want to go. Well, as I've said before, on your home network, I like this turned on, because if I've got something on one computer and I want to suck it through the other computer and I don't want to download it again, I want to see what's on my network. For example, on this computer, if I bring this up, and this particular computer's got the same problem. It's going to show, because everything's set correctly, but I'm not seeing what I want to see on the network, which kind of sucks. So I'm going to take this down. I'm going to go to the Control Panel, and we're going to go to that Programs and Settings. Where'd it go? I saw it and it disappeared. Programs. There it is. Programs and Features. I'm going to go to Windows Features, And once this populates, then we're going to go down here to this menu, scroll down, and we're looking at right here, SMB. I'm going to open that up. Now, there's 3 settings here: client, server, and automatic removal. I have seen on a computer where that automatic removal setting doesn't show up. And I found that kind of interesting. Remember, when Windows installs, or when you create the account, when you start using a new computer, whether it's an online account or an offline account, when you create that account, once you start the clock, you've got 15 days. If you don't use that activity, which is networking, within 15 days, that service is automatically uninstalled. Now, you can still network, but you're just not going to be able to see the resources. But if I add the client, and that's all I need right there, and say OK, it'll search for the required files, it'll change. And I've seen even computers that have been networked, it wants me to restart. OK, if this is going to restart, let's go to, let me go ahead and let it restart, and let's go over to computer number 1 while that's restarting. Yeah, let's flip over, thank you. So over here on computer number 1, while I'm waiting on computer number 2 to reboot, I'm going to go to Control Panel. I'm going to go to the Programs, Programs and Features. We'll go up here to Windows Features. It'll populate, and I'm going to show you right here, SMB, automatic removal is there, and client is also there. Because that's installed, I'm going to cancel out and cancel this, and I'll bring up the Explorer window again and go to Network. I can see everything that's in the network. But I've got other computers where I started networking from day 1, and Microsoft, at some point through these updates, uninstalled SMB. Well, I had read about SMB and I didn't get it. But I'm a believer now. You've got to have SMB1 installed. If you're out somewhere in the public, you don't want SMB, you don't want networking turned on. Yes, Jack? Can we get a mic on Jack, please? Where'd the mics go? There they are. Let me get up, get a camera on Jack.
I just checked into mine, and it's like everything else in my life, not quite slow, but only half fast. The client is not checked, but server is. We want them both checked, right?
No, you don't need server. You just need client.
Why would server be checked by default, I wonder?
I'm surprised. Don't know. I'd have to go look. But all you need is a client in our environment.
Okay,
I'm going to go over here.
Client for sure, and server questionable.
Yeah, you don't need server.
Okay.
I'm going to go over here to computer number 3. I'm still waiting for computer number 2 to come up. I'm going to go to the control panel here in computer number 3. I'll bring up the control panel, and I'll go to Programs and Features. I'm going to turn Windows Features on or off. We'll populate, and then we scroll down here for that feature, which is SMB. And if you'll notice on this computer, let me zoom in on that. Whoops, I've got bleed over. Give me just a second. Okay. If you'll notice on this computer, I've got client and server. There's no third comment about uninstalling the feature. I have no idea why that's like that.
That's the way mine is.
This computer started with Windows 10, whatever it was going on at the time, a year ago, when we built it. But that third option's not there. So for whatever reason, I've got client and server. Now, if I put client in there, I'll be able to see it on the network and browse it, but I have to reboot the computer, and I don't want to do that.
Where did you go after Programs and Features? I've got that, but I don't see a Windows Features.
Well, let me cancel this. Let me zoom out of this. Right up here where it says Turn Windows Features on or off in the upper left. See right there in the upper left. Turn Windows Features on or off.
I don't have that panel.
Well,
try clicking Start and typing in Windows Features. That popped it right up for me.
Yeah. Oh,
here's
okay, now I see it. Okay.
Here's Control Panel.
Got it.
Programs and features. And once I see the programs I have that I can do whatever with and uninstall, right up here in the upper left-hand corner,
Okay, I see it now.
turn Windows features on or off.
And then you went to
And then I scroll down.
SMB block, or SMB,
SMB1 CIFS.
yes. File
Well-
sharing support is checked.
All you want is client. You don't need server.
Okay.
Then you'll
And
have
then
to
I expand it.
well, just like this, I expand it. There's client and server. All you need is client. And once you do that, then you have to reboot.
Okay, I have automatic removal checked, I have client not checked, server checked. And I need to,
All you need is client.
so click client, uncheck the other two.
Yeah, I don't know why server's been clicked on you guys. All you need is a client.
So automatic removal uncheck and SMB uncheck, right?
Okay, I don't know how much clearer I can make it for the third time. Right here, you expand this tree where it says
Right.
SMB1, and you put a check mark by SMB client.
Right.
That's all you need.
Okay, but the others were checked, so I need to uncheck those, is that correct?
That's a good idea.
Okay.
Now let's go back over here to computer number 2. Computer number 2, and I'm going to bring up the Windows flag E. Well, I say I am. There it is. That's the only thing wrong with this computer. It has a spinning hard drive in it. I'm going to click on network. Now let's see what we see. I'll do a function F5. And I'm waiting for it. So this computer doesn't want to do it. Let's go over here to computer number 1. Now, computer number 1 shows me everything. I'm going to go back to the control panel. I'll go back to programs and features. Windows features on or off. I'll go down here to SMB. Now, I've got automatic removal and client. Client is all I need. I don't want it to automatically remove it, and that should give me all the resources, which it does. Now, this other computer, there's another feature that may be going on that requires 12 minutes to resolve network resources. That may also be at play. I do not know. But I'm showing you the first step in what you've got to do. The reason I wanted to show you this is because there's something I wanted to pull through the network. How many of you are using gadgets on Windows 10?
Using what?
Gadgets on Windows 10. Okay. Have you noticed, did you ever use the clock on gadgets? Well, 1803, when it installs, it will say that resource no longer works. The gadgets will then try to fix itself, and it will, but the clocks no longer work. And I thought that was really bizarre. So, do what? Can you just reinstall? Well, I've tried. I've tried the clocks because I like the HUD display. There was a clock and there was also one for a HUD display for time. And neither one of those will work anymore. So I had to go find a new clock. The reason being, Mom has macular degeneration. And on a large monitor, she could see that clock. So when it was gone, she can't see the time because what's on the taskbar, if you click on this to bring this up in the bottom right-hand corner, you know that's only there as long as it's not doing something else. Because as soon as you click somewhere on your desktop, it goes away. The other option is you've got this calendar, but it doesn't give you time. And you've got the same thing with this calendar. Once you click on it, it's only up while it's running. Remember, again, this is a spinning hard drive. This is the HP Envy. I don't want to do a count. I just want to go to the calendar. You know, that's great. It's there, but those are not big numbers. And there's no real way to adjust those to be larger. And if I click on something else, that goes to the background. So that's really kind of useless to me. So what I want to do, and I've got it in email, I'm going to bring it up, a link to it. I found a clock that will replace the other clock, and it will run as an application on the desktop. All these applications to keep updating. 1 minute it's Thunderbird, another minute it's Firefox. I got something in Firefox I'm going to show you when I get through with this. For anyone that plays YouTube videos, if you're having trouble with your YouTube videos playing, I got 3 things I'm going to show you with Firefox. Okay, what I'm looking for, I'm going to cut to the chase. There is a digital clock at SourceForge. So I'm going to go to this SourceForge digital clock. And what I did a search for was a large clock. I'm still working on a calendar. I like a calendar the way the heads-up display showed. Boy, now Firefox is updating. You know, these computers run all the time, and still you would think. So while we're waiting on that to come up, we'll be on SourceForge. I'm going to download it. We're on a wired connection. Okay, this is Digital Clock 4. This is really kind of a neat clock. It'll run with an icon in the taskbar. Download will start in 3, 2, 1 seconds. I was going to pull it through the network, but while I'm waiting for that resource to come back. There we are. It's an MSI. So we'll download it. Don't have very good bandwidth today, don't know why. We're on fiber. Oh, and I found something else out about fiber. I'm in Nottingham Country in West Houston. I told you guys about the nextdoor.com. I found another use for it. 2 neighbors in Green Trails were talking about fiber. One was asking about it. Another one said, oh, I've had it for 2 years. AT&T fiber is hooked up around me, but not in my neighborhood. I said, you know, well, we're not in one of the more elite neighborhoods. We're in one of the poorer neighborhoods. So maybe they'll let the rest of us have those table scraps later. But my neighbors have it hooked up, and they said they've had it for 2 years and said it hadn't gone down once.
How close are you?
Do what?
How close are you to your neighbor?
Well, too far to run a cable. I wish. You know, it's close. It's kind of within walking distance. I would say maybe half a mile. So it's not far. Okay, I've downloaded this. I'm going to install this, Digital Clock 4. Now, this particular computer we're putting this on, this is still build 1709, but the reason for this is for build 1803. So Windows messed up the networking, which they do every time they reset it, and they've somehow, because of the gadgets, the clock no longer works. This clock will. I have found 3. One of them was a big green clock, and it was like the numbers were extruded, and it was a digital readout, but it was a digital font. So with that extrusion, it made it excruciatingly hard to read. And I found another service that does more than just clock, but it's got to be configured, and once I figure out how to use it, I'll tell you more about it later. This I'm going to tell you right now because it is really neat. So we're going to look at the desktop, and I hope it doesn't make me reboot the computer again. But there's going to be a clock that's going to come up on this desk, and it's going to be in blue. That's the default. And it's supposed to have a little icon that shows up. Digital Clock 4, recently added. There it is. Okay, down here in the taskbar, let me zoom in on that. Right down here in the taskbar, I've got a little icon that says Digital Clock. So let me zoom back out for just a second, because we should have seen something on the desktop, and here it is in the upper left-hand corner. I'll zoom in on it. So it installed, but it didn't run by default. It just installed it. That's what it looks like by default. Now let me zoom back out. And I don't like the font. And to move it, you can click anywhere you want, but to move it, you've got to be in the time zone area. So I'm going to put it over here in this area. Now, with it in this area, I have the ability to do all kinds of neat things. And by default, that keeps running. By default, no matter what I call up, that will overlay it. See? No matter what I call up, it's still there. Now, for Mom, the best contrast for her is a solid black background, which is what I use on the computer, and I've changed this to a font. I think I put it on Tacoma, which is one of the Microsoft default fonts. And I changed this to a larger point size, and I made it white. So the black on white makes it easy for her to see. So I'm going to go to the icon, which is that little digital clock, right-click, update about, and if you do the about, it'll give you the link on where we just came from on SourceForge. I can do position, so I can change it from here, or I can do it manually, which I did. I'm going to go to settings. Now, with this on settings, I'm going to move this over. Now, I can do a zoom where it'll go wherever I want, but I still have not changed the color or the font. So the first thing I'll do is change the color. And I like the blue, but I'm going to change it to white. So when I say OK to that, it's not like the white text on Builder Buy. So then I need to go to the opacity and put that at 100%. Okay, that's not good enough. There's an area here where it says use font. I'm going to zoom in on that right here. So I'm going to use a font, and it drops it back down to the default. And let's go to the fonts. Let me zoom out so we can see what we're looking at. And I'm going to pick that, let's see, TA. Tahoma. And I'm going to go to 48 point, 72 point. Yeah, Mom can see that. Now, if I take this black background and make it totally black, it makes it a whole lot easier to see. But right now, for you to be able to see what it looks like, and it keeps track of the seconds. I got an hour and 20 minutes, and I've got the AM, PM, but I'll go back into the configuration, and I can do whatever I want to with this clock. And notice it's got a red border around it. So I've got miscellaneous, start on startup, enable auto update. I can do the time format, it's picking the system. I can also change it to a custom. Space between the digits, I guess you would also call that font pairing and kerning. Plugins to do other things to it. I have access to all that. I'm just using it as a straight, plain clock. And I can even do something with the background. But this is just a basic clock to replace the heads-up display. Now, whether you like it or not, I didn't have on the heads-up display this blinking seconds. With this one I do. I can live with it. But the fact that I've got the time and I've got the AM or PM, I've got that at a font size, and I keep that on a screen in this quadrant on a monitor where Mom can see it. So when she passes by that computer with her macular degeneration, that white text on a black background, she can see. So there's two things Microsoft has goofed up again with 1803. Number one are networking, but they do that every time. And the way Microsoft sets the default network is probably best for most people. But when you're in your own little castle, behind your own little router, and you've got your security set and your network security on your computer, I like my network open so I can share my resources, whether that's files, printers, whatever. And the other is this clock. Since Microsoft has decided to neuter the clocks that are working within the gadgets, here's a way to handle that. Now, the next thing I'm looking for is I want to find a calendar that'll give me the date just like this. I don't need a calendar that puts up a full calendar. I want a calendar that shows a single date, just like the heads-up display that we had with the gadgets. I'm going to keep looking. This was the third clock that I found, and this is the best clock I found. So for those that like to see the time, I hope you find that beneficial. Now, back to the browser. If any of you are using Firefox and you're trying to watch YouTube videos, there's 3 possible things that could be a problem while you're not able to. See how that bleeds through? I literally have to move that somewhere else or shut it off. Let me shut it off. Quit. There we go. Okay. There's 3 possible reasons why you're not able to see videos playback in Firefox. Number 1, could be the cache. Could be the Windows cache, could be the browser cache. Both those need to be cleaned. The other option they'll talk about, because we're using the new 64-bit browser, again, it auto-updates itself as well. It's using hardware acceleration. The advice that Firefox gives is to turn off hardware acceleration. You can try that, that might work. The third option, though, is to update your video driver. Your video drivers, especially on a desktop, are more crucial on a higher-end video card. Say you've got an NVIDIA whatever. Just because you've got a current driver that Microsoft says is in the HCL, well, there may be a more current driver. For example, if we go to NVIDIA, and I'm not talking about a game driver, but if we go to NVIDIA and we go to the drivers download, you notice the URL, it'll be nvidia.com/download. And what we'll do is we'll pick a chipset, so this will be a GeForce. We'll pick a series, if it'll let me. Okay, we'll pick a series, say one of the older ones like a 700. Instead of a 780 Ti, we'll pick just a 700. It'll be the same driver database. But we have this ability to look for a driver, and when I say search, there's another little dialog box that may pop up. I didn't see it. And I can download, this is 39764. It's in the HQL, the WHQL from Microsoft. But this is probably going to be what will solve your problem. So if you've got an AMD driver, go to AMD. If you've got an NVIDIA driver, go to NVIDIA. With the newer laptops that we're getting ready to look at that use higher end chipsets for the video, this becomes more crucial. If you've got something like this and your videos will not play, those are the 3 things to do. And they always say, you know, the last thing is always the thing that worked, so the last thing may solve your problem. So you've got the cache in Windows, you've got the cache in the browser. The second thing is you've got to turn off hardware acceleration that might work, but absolutely check your drivers. And with these drivers, these are not the game drivers. There's another thing that NVIDIA does with the game drivers. Don't do that. Yes, Robert?
If it is a cache, what can you do about it?
Can we get a mic on Robert so we can hear that? Otherwise, folks online aren't going to hear you. Wow. This camera acts like it's a little bit lazy.
If it is either one of those caches, what can you do about it? What can you do with a cache?
What can you do about the cache? Okay. Well, you can clear it. There's 2 places to clear the cache. The Windows cache, let me bring all this down. Let's bring up the Windows flag E for the Explorer. I'm going to click on this PC. I'm going to click on the C drive. I'll right click for properties. And then what I'm going to do is disk cleanup. And we've talked about disk cleanup before. Now typically disk cleanup, this is where you'll get your cache. But while you're at it, so you get everything, I would do the second level, which is not available because it's already been done. Right here, clean up system files. So the first thing you want to do is go through here and look at the cache, delivery optimization files, temporary files, there's 80 megs, DirectX shader cache, error files, temporary internet files. Okay, my temporary internet files are only 227K, so that would be the place I would look. Windows, when you shut it down and call it back up, it is supposed to automatically delete that stuff. But it doesn't always happen, especially if you had an unruly reboot. So that's where you've got to fix it. So that's how you take care of the files in Windows. But I would do the second one, and down there where it says clean up system files, because doing this goes back to doing the Windows, trying to get your updates. And with 1803, that's really where you need to go. And it's in the process of spinning. And it can take a while for that to run. The other place is clearing your browser cache. As soon as this, do we need to let this run to see it? Okay, I'm going to cancel that. Let me zoom out. Close that. Let's go back to the browser. In the upper right-hand corner, I'm going to do Options. And under the General, I'm going to scroll down to, let's see, Performance. Right here under Performance Settings. I'll zoom in on that. Instead of using this, when I remove that check mark, there's going to be a dialog box that'll drop down and give me some options. These are the options we're looking for. When I remove that setting, use hardware acceleration when available. Content process limit 4, because that's what I have in this machine, 4 cores, 8 threads. You would remove that check mark, close the browser, and bring the browser back up. This is the advice given by Firefox to remove that hardware acceleration. The next thing is clearing the cache. So let me zoom out. Up here in the upper right-hand corner, that second icon, let's see if that's back on. Yep. You know, it's amazing. We used to use batteries, and we used fresh batteries every meeting. Now, I'm charging these batteries, and we're getting like 18 hours of charge. And that little battery is $30. And that little battery, about 18 hours. So, and while we're here at the meeting, I've got a spare set of batteries for all the mics. So when they go away like that, I just plug this back in, and it'll charge while we do our thing. Could take an hour, hour and a half. It'll be good to go again. Okay, so I lost audio a while ago, so what I was talking about, the first thing was about the performance, recommended settings, hardware acceleration, remove that. Okay, if that's your issue and that's what you need to do, that's where you do it. The other issue is up here in the upper right-hand corner. We're going to clear the cache. Let me zoom in on that. So you see up here what looks like a little library of books where it says View History, Saved Bookmarks, and More. We'll click on that. We're going to look at history. And what we want, no, that's not it. I want to clear the cache. Let's see, downloads. Well, my mind just went blank. I guess my battery's going out. Let me think. Well, you have to clear the cache in the browser. Was it in the options? Let me zoom back out. That reset my mind. I forgot. Okay. Firefox. Clear cache. Let's see, from the history menu, select recent. From the time range, next to details, okay, that's empty. Recently closed, that's empty. Shows my recent history. Now if I show all history, it'll bring it up on the left-hand side. And from here, I can say, but the problem with that deletes just one at a time, one setting at a time. If I were to hold down the Shift key, yeah, you're only able to do one at a time. So if I say delete, it'll delete the month. Older than 6 months, delete. 2017, delete. So that's one way to clear it. There used to be another way we cleared the cache that was pretty quick and automatic. Upper right hand corner, 3 horizontal bars, did that. Choose clear recent history, set time range to clear everything. Click the triangle to show details, select cookies. That's what I'm looking for, the cookies cache, active logins, and site preferences. That's what I'm looking for. So I go up here and I do the 3 bars, choose the history. Where'd history go? Hell, I don't see the history. Three horizontal bars, choose history. Well, everybody sees history before I do. Let me go to the southern over here and see if I've got a history on it. Should have. I've got library, downloads, but don't see my history. Time range to clear everything. I'm looking for that dialog box that gives me that cookies cache, because I don't want to, some cookies I do want to clear and some I don't. Of course, the other option is I can just use a SpyBot search and destroy.
History was the second one down.
History the second one down? Where do you see it? I see library. Ah, there it is, history. Okay. And view history sidebar right there, clear recent history. Now I can choose, see the details. Here we are, that's what I was looking for. Clear recent history. Okay, thank you, Jack.
What did you click to get to the history?
Well, let me
What
go
did
back.
you click to get over to history?
I clicked the 3 bars.
And then you had to hit something else and it popped up.
Yeah, let's see, it was it library? Yeah, okay.
Okay,
So we clicked the 3 bars.
they left a step out.
We clicked the library. Then we clicked history. And then we hit clear recent history, and that's how we got this box up. That used to be a whole lot easier to get to, a lot quicker. Okay, instead of last hour, I can do everything. All selected items will be cleared. This action cannot be undone. Okay, I've got form and search history. I'd leave that. Cookies I'd get rid of. Right there's your cache. Active logins, I'd leave that. Off-site data, site preferences, those weren't checked to start with. So I would leave, probably get rid of browsing and download history. Get rid of cookies. Get rid of cache. So the only thing that I would, with everything cleared out, we'll get rid of that, and that. Offline website data, depends on what it is. It might be a good idea to clear that out. Site preferences I'd leave. So I'd be getting rid of 4 things. Browsing and download history, cookies, and cache. Cache is the main thing we were after, and then offline data. And because I selected the time range to be everything, when I say clear now, that'll wipe all that out. Now, that's because we're using Firefox. If we were using Internet Explorer, there's a mechanism within Windows in the control panel to do this, which is where they keep stuff.
Question.
Yes.
Have you ever looked at CCleaner?
Well, that's another option. If you want to use CCleaner or SpyBot Search and Destroy,
You
it'll
can set
clear.
it individually for the various pieces you use.
Right, but if you don't have those installed, I just wanted to show the default,
Oh, okay.
how Firefox does it. And I didn't remember that being hard to find, but then again, my mind got changed when I had to swap out my battery. So anyway, that's how those go. So back to your question, Robert, that's how you do that.
Thank you.
More than you wanted to know, but that's the whole deal. Okay, so if you're trying to play a YouTube video in Firefox and it won't play, those are the three things. You know, you would think Firefox only needs the plug-in, what's it called, the Adobe Flash, but that's not the case, because I could play videos with Chrome that would not play in Firefox. And the primary machine where I do my communications, this problem appeared after one of the Firefox updates. The video drivers were fine. I had no reason or need to change them. But when I went searching through this and going through the 1, 2, 3, when I updated the drivers, problem solved. And I was really surprised. So I wanted to share it with you. So that's how to do that. Let's see now. I want to get us into some stuff with, before I forget. How many people do we have that have signed up today, Lou? How many are present? How many have signed up on the registry today? Because everyone that's on the registry, I've got something I'm going to hand out to you. How many do we have? We got 20? Okay. Has anybody not signed in? Everybody please be sure and sign in. If you guys remember, this little program, IC Password, which is the Windows Password Recovery Tool, the Windows Password Recovery Advanced, that is the version that will let us create a disk that we can reset the Windows password with a unified EFI BIOS secure boot turned on. Now, I did this on Richard's machine after the fact, but because of Richard's machine, that's why I went looking for this. And Richard had a question about how to get into his laptop, and I'll answer that as soon as I get through with this. So I spent the week redoing a whole bunch of disks, and I want everybody to be sure you get one of these. These are 16 gig sticks, and I want everybody that's signed up. The only two people that are going to get one of these that aren't here are Nick Streeter and Joe Winry. Now, if you notice, this memory stick is in there, but also I left the card. If you'll hand all those out, Lou, there's a total of 29 because I gave one to Tommy, who helps us set up our audio. And as we found out, the little lady that wrote this that's in China said you can make as many copies as you want. So I've done that. I made 30 copies. So whoever's here today, I want to be sure you get one. If you ever need to reset a password on a Windows computer, that's the thing to use for it. It's a 16 gig stick. It was big enough. You know, that's an interesting thing. I've never bought that many memory sticks in bulk like that. I was kind of surprised. But I did 15, then I did another 5, then I did the other 10 last night. But it took some time to do it. And the neat thing about it, I had another one here. You ever notice, I've got this little, let me put a camera down here on this. I've got this little adapter. One thing I like about the HP computer, I can do a hardwired connection. One thing I don't like about this Lenovo, I cannot do a hardwired connection by itself out of the box. So I'm using this little adapter that Jack likes. And this is the anchor. I plugged it into a USB port, I gained 3 USB ports, and I gained a network connection and no driver required. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug this in to this computer. I'm going to zoom out and show you something. There's 3 USB ports. Any one of those ports I plug in, as long as I pull one out, I can plug into any one of those and it comes up with the same drive letter in Windows. In fact, you may want to go to that computer while we have it up, which is, yeah, you got it up on number 1. So I'll zoom in on it so you can see what we're doing right down here. So when I insert this, it pops right up and says USB. Select to do what you want to do with it. So I'm going to say burn. Now the software that was on there, I'm getting ready to get rid of. I don't care what's on there. But what I care about is this piece of cardboard that's in the box. If you open that up, there's a key in there for a free download of the Rescue Pro Deluxe from SanDisk. So if you ever need that software for disk recovery, that's why that card is in there, because you got the serial number. If you can read it, it's tiny, tiny print. That looks like a 2-point typeface. So I'm going to click on burn. It's going to burn it. And this disk is what everybody has a copy of. A Windows password recovery disk. Now with that set, I can reboot this computer and I can boot to that disk. And because Microsoft, as far as I know, is not monkeying with this computer, let's see, change focus assist, alarms will break through, turn off. I'll field your notifications. That's Cortana. Okay, I'm going to close this, and I'm going to have to get out my trusty Windows reset tool. This particular computer cannot use what we typically see as the keyboard shortcut to gain access to it. I have to use a paperclip. So what I have to do, let's see if we can, when this reboots, you're only going to be able to see what's on the screen. Are we getting bleed over on the screen? We shouldn't, but we may be. Yeah, that looks good. Let me zoom out. Okay. Okay, I'll zoom back out of that. Okay, I have to shut this computer completely down. So when this shuts down, you're only going to be able to see it from the camera for this to work. Now because this has an M.2 drive in it, it makes it a little bit easier to facilitate this. Once it's completely down, okay, keyboard shut off. I'm going to press the little key in this hole. It powers up. And there it is. There's the menu. Normal startup, BIOS setup, boot menu, system recovery. What I'm going to go for is boot menu. So I'm going to say OK on the boot menu. Press enter. And if you'll notice, I've got the Windows Boot Manager, which is what you will normally see on a disk, and I've also got my EFI USB device. Two things have to occur. One, your computer has to recognize the device. There it is. Two, once the device is recognized, it has to see the software that's on there, which is going to be the next step. So when I press enter, we're going to boot that computer to that memory stick, and this program is going to pop up and it's going to execute, and there it is. Now I can't zoom in on that from the computer, but I can zoom in with the camera so you can get a better view of that. Get that up just a little bit. The head on that tripod is a little bit loose. Okay, it shows the operating system Windows 10 Home. It shows the users. I can't make this any bigger. I can bring it up just a little bit. And I've got administrator, guest, default account. So what you're going to do if you're using this is you pick whatever account you want to go after, and I've got a step 3, reset password, which is grayed out because none of these have a password. I can also add a user, and then I can reboot. So if I want to add a user, here's the place to do it. So in other words, I could leave the existing password on the account. I could add another account here. When the computer pops up, if the menu is there, then it will give me the option to log in under that other user. Or I can reset the password. This is what's so crucial. Yes, sir. Yes. You can. And the question was, can you put in an administrative user? Yes, you can. And this is where you do it. This little disk is why we cannot use the Windows NT password editor, because we have to have access to unified EFI. The old way of the BIOS is going to become more of a problem. Now, this program I paid for, everybody here has a copy of the disk. They said I could make as many copies as I want. I made 31 copies. Yeah, I grinned like a pumpkin too. I mean, happy day. So this is the way to do this. This is the new way. Everybody keep that disk and keep it handy. If you ever have a time where you've forgotten a password, or you have a friend that says, oh my gosh, I forgot my password, you can be the person that performs the magic and says, oh, that's easy. I'll solve it for you. And then when they say, what did you do? You can say, that'll be X amount of dollars.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, Robert.
When this guy goes into boot now, if you put a new administrator in there or you put a new account, who is he actually going to boot to? The one you create then and there?
Well, once I create this account here, that menu should pop up that gives them the option of the users.
Okay, you've answered it.
Yeah, so in other words, if you have auto logon enabled, it will undo auto logon.
All right. Because that was, you had multiple accounts there and you were suggesting new accounts, blah, blah, blah.
Well, if you put a new account in there, then you have access to that new user and you would choose them instead of one of the others. You'll have more than one. Yes, Mel?
Just so I'm completely clear on this, this is the Microsoft logon account, not the local account.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
You just answered it. It's going to go to the second screen and tell you, ask you where you want to log in on.
Whether it's local or
Right,
Microsoft.
right. Because, see, if you've got auto logon enabled, auto logon is going to take you to whatever that primary account is. When you do this, a menu should pop up and ask you which account do you want to use.
So if you use the Microsoft account, then that will reset the password on your mail and whatever else you use that for?
You're only resetting the password to get into Windows. If that is the same password you use to get into the other, you're only resetting the password to get into Windows.
But I thought the idea was that if you use the Microsoft,
If you use a Microsoft...
then it works in whatever Microsoft has.
Well, this says administrator. These are local accounts, so these are not your online account. You're creating a local account.
You're creating locals, okay.
Yeah, because see, this is administrator, this is guest, these are default. These are all local accounts. Now, my account is Gil Boyd. It doesn't show up in here. Gil Boyd doesn't have a password. I don't have anything in here that anybody'd want. And as I've said, if I can crack the password, why should I put a password on there? And we used to use the NT password editor to do that. I've done it for people before. But because of the problem I had on Robert's machine, on Richard Worthen's machine, Richard's machine will only work with the Unified EFI BIOS. Well, this not only works with the Unified EFI BIOS, but it'll also work with Secure Boot. And that's a big deal. But the biggest deal is the Unified EFI. We have the old BIOS and the new Unified EFI BIOS.
What
Yes.
do these cost?
How much were these?
Yeah.
I might have paid $10 a disc.
Well, we owe you $10.
Nope, y'all don't owe me anything. That was my way of saying thank you, because I appreciate everybody for their support. And if you'll notice, we're up on our subscribers now. Builder Buy now has 184 subscribers, which is pretty cool. And I appreciate everybody's support for all this. This was something, though, I wanted to do to tell everybody thank you, because I appreciate this. And I want to get it done today. I didn't want to wait till next week because, well, yeah, I just thought it was important to get it done today.
What about USB 2?
Well, this is a USB 3 stick, so it'll be backward compatible. It'll work on USB 2. But this is USB 3, so it's as fast as we can get unless we go to USB-C. It won't plug into yours?
Nope.
Did you turn it over and try it?
Yep.
Well, let me come over there and take a look, because it should. Okay, you take the cap off.
Oh, that was the problem.
See, there's a cap on it.
Okay.
And then when you take the cap off, then all you do is just plug it in,
Okay.
and it fits.
Hold on.
Yeah, there you go. Now, when I take that out, there's a little notch in here where you can run a string through there, a lanyard. You'll have to get your own lanyard.
With a really big fob. Thank you.
Yeah, get a big fob. There you go. Okay, so everybody's got one. Everybody knows what this thing looks like. I'm going to bring this computer back up because now we're going to go take a look at some other good stuff. This action will reboot your computer. Yes. And I'll pull that out and let it come back up normal. Well, that thing gets hot as a little red wagon. My gosh, that's, wow. You could cook eggs on that. Put my magic key up, my paper clip. That's pretty wild. I had to dig through the manual to figure that out. I kept looking for a keyboard sequence. None of the regular keys would work. And then I found out that I had to use that special key like you get into a drive with. Okay, now we're back up and running. Now on this particular computer, computer number 1, this is the Lenovo. I've got, as soon as it finishes, I got a couple of laptops I want to show you. Well, Thunderbird's doing its update again. Why is everybody picking Wednesday to do updates? When did that become the norm? Picking Wednesday to do updates. Why did that become the norm? Okay, let me go over here to computer number 2. That's going to have what I'm looking for. Let me pull up email over here. We did the clock, and I've got, let's see, Jim Fallon sent me, trying to think what Jim sent me about the Windows 10 update. Jim, what were you going to share with us about the Windows 10 update?
That some people were having trouble with it. I sent you an article, and now I can't find, somehow or the other, I can't get on Builder Buy the new, your updates today. But where's the effect that people were having trouble with this Windows 10 update that just came out? And I haven't had any trouble with it.
When you say trouble, can you be more specific?
Well, I wish I could get the article in front of me, but I can't get the article.
Okay, well, I'll call the article up. It was from the Register. We used to refer to them a lot, haven't lately, out of the UK. So we'll bring this up. See, my question and my concern says about to install the 10 update. You might want to wait a little longer. Apps fingered in vanishing desktop snafu. I haven't had a chance to read this. Some users losing access to their desktop after installing new code. That sounds like fun. The problem first appeared in a post on a Microsoft support forum on May the 14th. Has gained a bit of traction over the last few days. The affected users report that after accepting the request to restart and install, Windows 10 awaiting the request, the requisite hour for the update and its stuff, users can find themselves staring at a blank desktop with no icons. An alarming message stating that the desktop file could not be accessed is then shown. The error suggests that something fishy has happened at a system file level. Wow. Afflicted users have found that none of the Windows 10 built-in repair options deal with the issue, and they have to resort to creating a fresh install of the operating system. Now, see, what I'd like is more information is, are they using not that it should matter, but are they using an online account or are they using an offline account? Could have something to do with the antivirus issue. Microsoft chastising some vendors for making naughty calls to places they shouldn't in the Windows kernel.
It had to do with Avast antivirus software.
Avast?
Only they've responded down at the bottom. And so I don't know. I don't use Avast.
We have tested this and couldn't identify any problems affecting Avast antivirus consumers users specifically. Online user comments show that many are unfortunately experiencing problems. We cannot rule out that a small amount of AVAST users may be having difficulties updating, but we don't see any indications that it's caused by AVAST. So we know something's wrong. The first thing we heard about, that users with an Intel SSD were not going to get the update because it had something to do, you weren't here a couple of weeks ago, it had something to do with possibly a driver. And so that was being blocked from those users. I've had 1803 installed on 2 machines, not by choice, but you know Microsoft kicking and screaming, here we come. So I've had the 2 issues that I've shown you guys how I've resolved it. One was the networking, this happens every time, and 2, because they neutered my clock and how I got a new clock up. So these other problems that other people are having, you know, don't go looking for it. Don't go searching for it. But when they present it to you, you might want to change your connection to a metered connection. That would be the way to block it right now. Otherwise, remember, clone image backup. We got a nice video up on that, how to do that. It's not had very many people look at it. It's only had about 400 views because not a lot of people are interested in it. But when we have times like this, all I can do is refer to it and say, you know, watch the video. And to be specific, as Robert Collier pointed out one time, I expect people to watch the video, but if you don't, number 1, a desktop, clone it. Number 2, if you have a laptop, image it. And if you have an M.2 drive in either thing, desktop or laptop, image it. So, thanks for sharing that with us.
Before you need it.
Do what?
Before you need it.
Yep, it's always beforehand, not after the fact. Okay, so that was what Jim sent us. For those of you wondering about the website, I haven't had a chance to do anything with it. Everything I've got is going to be an email and the stuff I'm sharing with you. Yesterday was our day to go do our informal hearing with HCAD, and that came out okay, but that occupied my time. So the 3 hours it takes to do the website didn't happen last night. I thought it was more important I get a good night's sleep. Now we got a link also from Jim about the new laptop that Razer has come out with. Now, Jim, you haven't been here the last couple of weeks, and Al's not with us today because he's getting ready to buy a laptop. I told him to wait. But this new Razer, I wonder how it compares to the MSI MS65. Because MSI has a really thin laptop that closed, the thickness of it is thinner than a dime up on edge. Weight-wise, they're about the same. Price-wise, the MSI is less expensive than this Razer. But I want to go through these specs. What'd you have?
Well, the problem is this thing is extremely expensive. It's labeled as slimmest gaming laptop. So
Well,
I speculate that that other one would be slimmer. It didn't say how much this one weighed. This one costs a fortune, but it's got some really good stuff on it. You can get a GTX 1070 Max graphics card, but that system runs you only $2,899. And the the bottom one is with the GTX 1060, and that's only $1,899.
well, remember, whenever somebody says a gaming laptop, that doesn't mean you can't use it for business. That just means
Well, I mean, that would be neat.
it's got higher-end graphics in it. So I'm going to see if this will bring up the other menu that shows us.
But I could not find a weight on there.
Yes, it's there. It's like 4 point something.
Oh, 4.7. Here it is, yeah.
Okay, here's the two. There's two versions. You can get it with a 1070 256 or a 1070 with a 512. So the 1070 with the 512 is $2,600. The MSI, I believe, has a 1060 with a 512. Comes in at like $2,100. And I can show you a couple of links because if I can find it real quick, let me go back over here and take a look. There's also an article on Extreme Tech about the new Razer. The link I showed you was direct. There is, I'm going to find the one, yeah, this is the one at B&H Photo. Now, even though I'm going to show you an ASUS, I'm going to come back to this ASUS. So what I'm going to do is do a search for the MSI MS65. The MSI MS65, and there are several. I'm sorry, GS65. GS. My bad. Where is the delete key? There it is. GS65. Okay, there's about 5 versions of this. There's the $1,800 version. I'm going to show you the $2,100 version that's configured the way I think it should be. There's also a $3,000 version of this laptop right here. Okay, here's an MSI GS65 for $2,100. It's got the new 6-core, 16 gigs of memory, a 512 gig NVMe, which is the PCIe by 4. This has a 1060. I think, in my opinion, this is a better deal for the money. Even better deal than the Razer, because if we, let me back up and show you the one that's a 1070 if we want to compare apples and apples. It will be probably, that's 32, 256, they've got one that has a 512 in it. The problem is we can't get exact apples and apples. This machine has 32 gigs of RAM. Okay, I'll take that. Okay, here's a machine for $2,500 that has 32 gigs of RAM that you don't need, a 512 gig NVMe, and a 1070. That's an 8 gig 1070. Let's go back over here and take a look at this one. Now this is $2,600 for a 1070 and a 512. $2,600 or $2,500. Now, of those two, in my opinion, I think this MSI is a better deal for the money. If we look at the weight, this MSI, I'm not saying get this one, but of these two, these are a better deal. The weight on this is 4.14. And we'll find it. Yeah, 4.14. Hang on a second. 4.14 pounds. This one, I believe, is also 4.14 pounds. We'd have to back up to take a look at the specs. So the one that's the really good deal, in my opinion, I don't, unless you need the 1070. Now here's two 512s with a 1070. Here's a 512 with a 1060. $2,100. In my opinion, of those, of the MSI GS65s, the least expensive one is $1,800. It's got a 256 and a 1060. This has a 512 and a 1060. I think that's a good deal for the money.
And what's the most RAM you can put in it?
What's the what?
Most RAM you can put in there.
Well, the most I've seen in them is 32 gigs. The processor will support 64.
Well, now that Razer, what I found amazing on that Razer is, it comes with, I think, with only one processor, but you can get 3 different screens. But 16 gigs is the most RAM that you can put in that, which. Oh,
the Razer will only allow 16?
It will only take 16, which I thought was just
that's bizarre.
A deal killer.
That's a deal
right
breaker.
There. Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
More than likely, most people, 16 gigs is all they'll need. But if someone's going to spend that kind of money, and they've taken out a stick of memory because that processor will support 64 gigs, and they're only letting you put in one 16 gig stick, that's a deal breaker.
Yeah. Now on the Razer. They went to, from the previous generation, their weight is up a little bit. In fact, I think they said it was up 0.7 pounds. But the size, they went from a smaller screen to a 15.8 inch screen. But the overall size of the computer is just very little difference. But the reason they went to the larger screen was because the availability of the smaller screen was very limited. The larger screen, they have 3 configurations you can get. One of them's a 1070, and one of them's a 4K.
Oh, I see that now. Yeah.
Okay. And I forget
4K 60 hertz.
Yeah, but so that might be pretty interesting.
What's that?
But I say so that was interesting to me. But when
I agree.
It says that you can only put 16 gigs of RAM in there, that is a deal killer.
Now on here it says it's expandable to 32. I'm looking at the configuration for every one of them. Every one of these says they're expandable to 32.
Well,
But
let
you
me-
read it only had 16 and you couldn't put more in.
I'll go back and look at the article I was.
Well, I'm looking here at the specs on Razer's site, and if you look at the one that does the 4K, it's on the far right side. It's the Blade 15. It's got a touchscreen. It's got a GTX 1070 with a 512 gig. This is 4K 60. It's 100% RGB. It's got the 6-core 8750H processor. And that's the NVIDIA 1070 with 8 gigs. It's got a 16 gig dual channel SODIMM, expandable to 32 gigs. The question is, does that have one stick of memory in there, or does it have one 16 gig, or is it 2 8s? But this says it'll go to 32. And then it shows the 512 gig M.2. It's an NVMe PCIe 3.0x4, which means it takes 4 PCI lanes. An 80 watt hour battery. So you should get, what, 8 or 9 hours out of that. Shows the dimensions, shows the weight, 4.73 pounds. So this Razer weighs a little bit more. Even the lightest one is 4.63, but that still weighs more than the MSI. Now the processor will support 64 gigs, but the configurations we're seeing, 32. This MSI, we'll take a look down here at the specs. Total memory installed, 16 gigs. Maximum memory supported is 32. It looks like they're all using the same board. Now on this MSI, it's got 2 8 gig sticks. So if you want to upgrade, you've got to lose that to get 2 16s. Most people, that'll probably do what you want. But if you want to go higher, and this has one Thunderbolt 3. On the Razer, do we get Thunderbolt on here?
Yes. And it seems to me like it was 2.
Here it is, Thunderbolt 3. This says Thunderbolt 3 USB-C, every one of them. So it's got USB 3.1C, and it's got USB 3.1. It has mini display port and HDMI. So this has only one video out. It has 2 video out, mini display port and HDMI. Good to know. So the specs on the Razer are real close to the MSI. I like the price on the MSI better, and I like the weight on the MSI better. Has anybody ever bought a Razer? I've been watching them for quite a while, but I'm not there yet. This also has Bluetooth 5. The MSI has Bluetooth 5. But this top of the line Razer, that's $2,900, said available in June. So everything we talked about, that we've been talking about the last 2 weeks, June and July are when this stuff's coming out. Things are just starting to happen now. The MSI is available. And I'm going to take you over and I'm going to show you a couple of ASUS laptops that I think are kind of interesting. So I'm going to bring that link back up. One's at B&H. Now this one is $1,500. I'm going to show you, and I'm just going to cut to the chase. This other one is at Costco, if this link will work. What's curious about the one at Costco, this is at the store as well as the website. But if you try to search specifically for this on the website, you're going to have a hard time finding it. The reason I know, if I do a search for a 17-inch display, this disappears. So Costco needs to fix that. The way I found this, I was searching strictly for the brand ASUS. And then I started drilling down, and that's how I found it. And I could not search according to the processor that's in here. To their detriment, Costco needs to fix this. So I'm going to show you this laptop in 2 configurations. It's both ASUS, same brand, same size screen, 17-inch. So this is heavier. We're pushing 7 pounds with this. But we're looking at either $1,300 or the one from B&H for $1,500. The question is it worth the difference in the price? So I'm going to show you what those differences are. Now this has a 1 terabyte and a 256 gig SSD. I think that is an NVMe drive, but it's only 256. The video is a GTX 1050, so it's a 4 gig. For most people, that's plenty. And that's the minimum spec set by Netflix. Now the one here at B&H, it costs more, but you get more. Same amount of memory, same size SSD, which is an NVMe and a 1 terabyte. What I don't like of that 1 terabyte is an SSHD, which I think stinks. They should have either put a regular drive in or put a SSD, but that's my opinion. 17-inch, 1080 screen, but this has a GTX 1060, 6 gig. So is it worth $200 more to get better video? If I'm looking at a laptop, get the things that you think that you need that you cannot change. The other stuff that you can change, you can deal with. For example, 256 gig NVMe drive. You can upgrade that. The video you cannot. That's going to be hardwired on the board. So if you need that better video for $200, there it is. Otherwise, that is available at Costco right now, and it's in the store. And that's the only 6-core I've seen at Costco right now, but I had to dig to find it. The little card that Costco has when you go in the store is readily available, and it'll show that this is a 6-core processor, but on the website, I had to dig into the specs. See, I get a model, but these specs are so generic. More details. We'll scroll down right here. 6 cores, GTX graphics. But I had to dig for it. Now somewhere down here it will tell about all those good things. Shows the port, talks about being MU-MIMO compatible, DisplayPort HDMI, USB-C. This does not have Thunderbolt. But look at the difference in the price. They include a mouse, a $5 mouse. There's the processor. The 8750H, meaning that is 6 cores. But if I were to go to Costco's website and search for a 6-core processor, it'll show me all kinds of stuff except what I'm looking for. That doesn't show up. And here it says specifically that's a 1 terabyte, 5400 RPM SATA 3 hard drive. Now this says this M.2 is a SATA drive, but it doesn't say it's anything better. If we look at the model that's over at B&H, it does have the better drive. But again, there's a 90-day return policy. If it ain't what you want, it's easy to get rid of. So I wanted to share that with you. So if anybody's in the market for a laptop, same thing still holds true. If you're looking at weight, 4 pounds, 15-inch screen. If you want a 17-inch screen, you're pushing 6 pounds, maybe 7. Let's go down here to the specs and take a look at the weight on this little job. (120 Hz refresh), that's nice. This says specifically this has an NVMe drive, USB-C, USB 3.1C and USB 3.1A, and 1 USB 2 port, which I find kind of odd, curious. It also has a SD card reader. It can do a wired RJ45 connection for the network. This has Bluetooth 4.1. I've seen some laptops with 4.2. And then, of course, some of these new real thin ones have the Bluetooth 5.0. The webcam, batteries, 7.6, 76 watt hours. And the weight, all these have Windows 10 Home, 6.5 pounds. So 4 pounds, 15-inch screen, 17-inch screen, we're pushing 6 to 7 pounds. And this one comes in right at 6.5. To me, this is not bad for the money. This is bang for the buck. I like the specs on this one. The question is, if I were in a crunch, I could work with this laptop. I don't like the video that's in it, but to put it in perspective, the video on that laptop is better than the video on the 2 laptops I have in front of me right now. So, do I need that much better video? Well, I'm looking for something to replace this desktop machine to do our on-screen graphics with. So that's where I'm looking at graphics. So from a 1050 Ti to this, a 1060. Do I need it? I'm not going to render video with it, but I do render graphics. Those graphics have to be rendered before they're put up on screen. I need it to happen as quickly as possible. Right now, the only thing I have up there, it says live stream. That's a rendered graphic that we have as the overlay. But is it worth $200? Good question. Something I'm considering. Now, for me up here, I prefer a 17-inch screen, my feeble little eyes. I also hook up an external mouse, but that's just me. Now, something else I want to do right quick is I want to get Robert's machine, because Robert said, how do you get into it? Once I figured out how to fix his password, that was the big deal, that I shared with you guys that password reset disk that everyone's got a copy. Let me have your machine, Robert. Richard, I'm sorry. Okay, it's up right now. He said, how do you get into it? He's used to getting into it the other way. You got to hold your mouth just right and press the right key to get into it. Literally. I'm going to set this down here. And I'm going to put a camera on this. And let's see if this will focus. Oh, wow. Let's see if the camera will let that be seen. Camera just went out of focus on me. Give me a minute. Get off that for just a second until I get it in focus. Get out of my own light. Okay. Let's see what happens. Let's go ahead and bring that computer back up. Okay, it should be. Did we turn it off? Oh, I must have. Okay. Turn it back on. Okay. There it is. You're in. Did you see what I did? I'll do it again. I'll turn it off. Shut it down. I'll turn it back on. It's back on. See, all I did was, and I'm into it. I'll turn it back off again. It's off. There's 3 buttons on this thing. There's a button on the top, and there's 2 buttons on the side. And that keyboard sequence is what is required to get into this rascal. But I found out it was easier to plug in an external keyboard, F2, and I was immediately into it. Okay, it's up. And all I did was swipe from the bottom up. Did you see that? You want me to do it again? Okay. Now, as Rocky would say, nothing up my sleeves. I'll turn it back on again. When it comes up, that's the screen you see. And all I did was scroll. You have a touch screen, scroll. Now I'm into Windows. It's up. And where's the mouse? I don't see the mouse. The driver's going to have to be installed for the mouse.
I haven't been able to get it to work.
Do what?
I haven't been able to get the mouse to work.
Okay, there's going to have to be a driver installed because I had to do a clean install. So what I would do is get a device like this where you can plug in an external mouse with a USB. You got an extra mouse? And then what I would do is go download the driver for this. There should be a website with the driver package. Let's see, that is let me go back over here to computer number 1. And that is an ASUS T, let's see, ASUS T100T. And we want to go to ASUS's website. Okay, thank you. We may have to have a tablet for this. I mean a mouse pad. The mice don't like this surface. Let's see if we can plug in.
Set the time
Oh, wow. No, there's no mouse. Well, that's crazy. I had a mouse working on it. It's not seeing it. Let me try something else. I had a mouse working in it. Let me try this one. Always more than one way to skin a rat. Nope, no mouse. So I, yeah. The touch works. Do what?
Joe won't work in that machine.
No, I couldn't see the screen. It drove me nuts. I couldn't wait to get rid of it. But I had spent a lot of hours with it. But it's not recognizing the mouse, so something is going on. I also see the audio is not installed, so the whatever driver package. What I'm doing, let's go back over here to get rid of that. I'm going over here to ASUS's website, and I'm looking at the specifications, and I'm going to support. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to file, email. I'm going to send a copy of this to myself so that I can send a copy of it to later to Richard. I'm going to go to support, and I'm going to look for the driver package, drivers and tools. Choose the operating system. We are Windows 10, 32-bit. Oh, that's a good idea. Let's try that. One of these has got to work, because a mouse should automatically configure.
Yes. It's on.
There is no mouse.
Got a problem with the machine.
Yeah, there's something wrong. I had a mouse working on it,
Not today.
but it ain't working today. So I'm looking for Windows 10, and it doesn't show any drivers. So I'm going to select Windows 8.1 32-bit. Let's go back to Windows 10, BIOS and firmware. BIOS and firmware, but no drivers. See all downloads. Okay, BIOS, 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 BIOS. These are all BIOS files. Going back to, wow, 2013. So I've got BIOS updates, but that's it. I don't show any drivers. So what we're going to have to do is figure out what tablet this thing uses. This is the ASUS T100T. Touchpad driver. There's a T100A. T100TA, let's try that. Which takes us right back to where we were. Choose the operating system, Windows 10. And all I've got are, oh, here we are. I didn't see that a while ago. Touchpad, that's what we want. Okay, do you have a memory stick? Do you have a memory stick, Robert? I mean, Richard?
I don't know.
If you've got a memory stick, I can download the driver. Well, that'll help. We'll just, yeah, we'll have to do it right now. I was going to, okay, we'll just do it. And I'm going to email myself this just in case. So we're going to do, let's see, ATK, hotkey related utilities. Let's pull down the touchpad. So I'm going to pull down this touchpad driver. It may ask me to sign some kind of EULA. Oh, it didn't. Okay. And I'll pull down the ATK. That's a pretty good size file. 50 megabytes just for a driver. Now the regular driver for Windows should have configured and installed, but it didn't take it, and I don't know why.
I don't know what's in any of these things since I lost my memory.
Well, tell me what you want to use, and let's see. I need another USB port on there because this needs to happen in real time because we need to do two things at once. So I need. I need another one of those adapters. I need to multiply the USB ports. Jack, does anybody have something I can multiply some ports with on the for the quickly? Because we need to do two things real quickly. Yes, yes, that'll work. Thank you. Oh, Vantech, I like that brand. They make some neat stuff. Okay, so we're going to plug this in. This will give us some ports. Okay, you got a memory stick? Okay, this will work for the short term.
I think you need a memory.
I got one right now. We're going to do this. So what I'm going to do, since we're on the sneaker net right now, and I need that computer to stay up. That computer just shut itself down. Okay, so I'm going to take these drivers, and I need both packages, Smart Gesture and that package. So I'm going to copy, and I'm going to send those to this USB stick. And then we'll take them through the sneaker net. And for some reason that thing shut down again.
Yeah, it does that real often if you don't stay with it.
Looks like it needs to be, okay, from that disk now to this disk. See if we got drivers over here. That'll just have to hang. Okay, flag E. Well, that's interesting. This thing's been working. It worked for me.
I haven't been able to get into it since you fixed it.
He can't been able to get into it since I fixed it. That's helpful.
But that could be me because I can't remember anything anymore.
I can bring up the menu, but the key, even the keyboard's not working. Okay, I need a keyboard. No, keyboard's not working. It was, but I was using an external keyboard, and I'm not able to get into this. So that driver, for whatever reason, and the audio's not working, I need, let me think. Do what? I can't hear with Rob, what? Power down and restart. You think that'll work? Well, we'll find out. See if it'll come back up. Well, now it doesn't want to restart. Where's the charger? Richard, where's your charger? You know, you're right. Oh, here it comes. There's the mouse. You got to be kidding me. I have no idea. But there's the mouse. The mouse went away. Let's see if the keyboard comes back. Yeah, there's something squirrely going on. I saw the mouse. It came up, and then it went away. What's that? Power adapter. Let's see, this plugs into the top one. Okay, let's see what we get now. Still no mouse, still no keyboard. And I'm not even sure we got this on. When your Vantech works, the light comes on, doesn't it, David? It's not working. Maybe it's a problem with what? Could be. No, that's it. Nothing. We're not going to be able to, if it's not going to recognize it, plugging it, unplugging it should have worked. Well, we got this on the memory stick, so let's try it direct, see if we get anything. Yeah, there's something wrong with this device. I have no idea what. The keyboard's not working. The mouse came back. Let's see if I can do power. Let's do a shutdown. Okay, I got it shut down. Let's bring it back up. It was working beautifully. There it comes. Now when it first comes up, we're going to see the mouse pointer on the center of the screen. But when I start trying to move it, there's the mouse pointer. But yes, it'll go away. Okay, we have a mouse, and as soon as I start moving it, it doesn't move. And the Windows key E, it's like the keyboard's not working either. Okay, there's one other thing I can try, but I've got to replicate the USB on here to do it. Let me think about this. I need to. No, Richard, I'm not taking this home with me. I don't have time. Well, for some reason, it's not working now.
No, I mean, why are you fooling with it at all? What's the issue?
First of all, he couldn't get into it. So I showed him how to get into it. Now that we got into it, we cannot get the keyboard to work, which it did before, and we cannot plug anything into it. It won't work. It's not recognizing this device either.
Can you see how full the storage drive is?
Well, if I could use the keyboard to bring up Explorer, that'd be great. But since I can't use the keyboard to bring up Explorer, I can't. It's not working with my device, and it didn't work with your device. This was the device I originally used on this. Trying to. I can't get anything to come up. Only thing that'll come up is what is on the touch screen works. I can bring up the menu. I can bring up the recycle bin, and I can bring up whatever on the bars. To get the touch screen to work, there's an icon for it. There. So I don't know that works, but I need to be able to get to see, I can't use the keyboard, this physical keyboard. I don't have access to the touchpad, and it will not recognize this external USB device. Yes.
It looks like the screen's not responding to the lower half.
It looks like the screen is not responding. What do you mean?
When you touch the screen, everything works, but when you try to do anything on the keyboard, it doesn't work.
Right.
Maybe the connection between the lower half of the computer to the screen is faulty.
Could be. Could be. There's no way for me to attach to deal with that.
No.
That has to be done with inside.
But that is a touch screen?
Yes.
Okay, well there is the touch screen keyboard.
I just had it up.
Yeah, it also, it could be the touch screen on the tab, touchpad has been disabled.
Could be. It originally was working.
Costco's?
Yeah.
How long ago?
This is old.
Man,
Well, most of those tablets like that have too little space to even do a Windows update.
Well, I did a Windows update and I attached to this drive, to this USB port. Nothing is recognized on this USB port now. So if it's not going to recognize anything here, it's certainly not going to recognize it later. To me, it looks like it's on its last leg.
Why did they cost $70 to start off with?
You'd have to ask Richard. I don't know what he paid for it.
I have no idea. I'll call my number.
I've copied the files onto this memory stick. I'm going to give it back to you because, well, the files are on here if we can ever get them recognized, but it's not recognizing the port. There's nothing I can do about that. It only has one port. And if I can't get access to the keyboard, first of all, if it's not going to recognize this device, there's nothing I can do to it. We've got power on it, but it will not work. So for some reason, there's no way I know of to turn off the USB port or turn it on. And these keys on the side will work to bring up the menu. But that's just flat not working. So, hang on, let me get it. It was working and it was working beautifully, but I don't know why it's not working now. It looks to me like it's gone south. Shut down. So whatever connects those two together,
Thanks for trying.
sorry, it doesn't work. So anyway, we took a look at that. We're not always able to fix everything. I spent about 8 hours on that, or 11 hours, getting it to the point we could get Windows reinstalled, and that's why everybody's got a memory stick. But as far as getting it to do anything else, if it will not recognize the USB here, it's not going to do it anyplace else. So has anybody got any more questions or comments? Yes, Mel. Where's the mics? Oh, Robert put them up here. It would help in the future if you guys, if someone could take one of these, so when Robert leaves, instead of bringing them up to me. Thanks, Mel. Just turned it on.
Okay,
Just
now
the
it's
one
on.
you're using.
Is this our last, this is the end of May, and next week is Memorial?
Next week we'll be here.
You will be, and that's the last one?
That's going to be the last one for the month. And that'll be the last one because we're going to have the summer off.
And then it'll be,
It will probably be middle of, let's see, this is May, next week is the 30th. So we've got June, possibly the middle of July. We'll not be here at all in June. There's going to be, let's see, was it, Ben's going to be gone for a couple of 3 weeks. Andrew, I think, was going to be gone for a week or two. And you're getting your eyes worked on, or have you already had it done? How's it doing? Is it better? Good. I'm glad to hear that. Glad to hear that.
okay, and the other thing was, did you happen to find how to see a docking station in your device manager or someplace in your
Have
computer?
not had a chance.
Oh, okay.
My big deal yesterday was dealing with HCAD, so that's what I had to do.
Okay.
But I'll still do some looking. Now back to the original question. We're not going to be here in June, and I'm not sure about July. The first weekend in July we will not do Wednesday because that's July the 4th. I don't know about the rest of the month. It's going to depend on how long I take to build this fence. If my neighbor helps, it's going to take a little bit longer. So hopefully I'll be able to get this done and get it out of his way and out of my way. I may even make a video of it because this is not a standard fence. So we'll be here next week, and then the next meeting I'll send out a message to you guys and let you know, but we will be here next week. So has anybody got any more questions or comments for today? I hope you found this useful. I want to thank you all for being here. I hope you enjoyed the discs. For those of you that are online watching, I appreciate your support. Thanks for everybody subscribing. We're going to do some more videos, but we're going to be kind of out of pocket in June because I got to get a fence built. So thanks for coming. Appreciate your support, and thanks for subscribing. We'll look forward to seeing you next week. Y'all have a great day. Yes, go ahead.